Welcome to the final presentations for the Anguilla drone pilot drone mapping and monitoring project for disaster management training program here in 2026. I'm Dr. Kim Baldwin. What we're going to do very quickly today is review the project background, our objectives and goals, see where we've come from, review the outcomes of this project. The drone team will be presenting their final project presentations, and then we will close this out with some recommendations and next steps for implementation. The main goal of this project was to set up a commercial drone unit and train 10 drone pilots in commercial operations. So what we've done is we've strove to develop an operations manual for drone operations within the country of Anguilla. We have applied these protocols and procedures to build our knowledge and skills to go out and conduct drone surveys, whether it is free flying or automated surveys. The focus of this class was on emergency management and disaster management, as well as environmental monitoring activities. And overall, the goal is to improve national capacity to use drones and create geospatial data to inform decision making and support disaster management operations within Anguilla. The Anguilla drone team is a great team of 10 drone pilots, and this was a blended group of government and non-governmental organizations focused on environment, emergency, and essential services. You can see that we had 10 pilots from 5 different agencies. We did an inventory of what the experience levels were of these pilots, but also the existing national resources in terms of the drone makes, models, and softwares. This training started from where you were at, and we sought to build the capacity of these 10 people over the last 3 months. This was a blended training project, which means that it was part in person and part virtual. And so it was delivered virtually using my online training academy. And the focus was commercial drone operations, professional piloting. And then the pilots also had an added benefit of drone mapping and monitoring for emergency services and environmental management. So the online course really focused for 4 weeks before I came out and did the in-person components of this training on commercial operations and professional piloting. So this was focused not just on national operations, but regional and global standards for commercial or professional drone operations. So the pilots learned about the industry, the various makes, models, components of drones, the various uses for drone technology. We focused for a long time on commercial operations, drone policies and procedures globally, as I mentioned, nationally. We learned about commercial operating policies and procedures, standard operating procedures, and we applied these for flight planning. We undertook risk and safety assessments. And then my favorite part, we focused on data handling management protocols. So this was a very intensive online course. We focused on commercial drone operations and what are the requirements, not just in Anguilla, but around the world for commercial operations. We also reached out and worked with the national regulatory bodies. The first and foremost is ASSI, Air Safety Support International, who focuses on the overseas territories, drones, operations, and guidelines. These are policies and procedures that are already put into place in the country, as well as the other overseas territories in the Caribbean. We worked with ASSI to find out what were the rules and regulations, and then we brought it back down to the national level. We talked about the national policies and procedures here in Anguilla. Specifically, we looked at drone licensing and what is required. So I got my commercial operational license from ASSI, but we found out that actually you need to also be registered or inform MyCoo, as well as at the Anguilla Air and Seaports Authority. As part of the class, we met with ASPA and we discussed and reviewed the project and the program with ASPA so that we could determine the correct procedures. Another main component of this project was the development of a policy and operational manual for the government of Anguilla's commercial drone operations, but also for other national partners, such as the National Trust, that work alongside with this commercial drone team for the country. This operations manual is over 50 pages and it lays out all the standard operating procedures for commercial drone operations within Anguilla. So the team structure, the roles and responsibilities of the various crew members, how to undertake flight planning procedures as well as flight conduct, the implementation of risk assessments and safety management measures, as well as I mentioned, data management and handling protocols, standardizing things across all agencies and partners working together in Anguilla. We also focused on equipment storage, maintenance, firmware updates, and other things that are required for compliance internationally for commercial operations, but also for safety on a national level. Then, after this 1 month intensive virtual training, I came into country and we had an intensive 6-day boot camp where we applied the commercial policy and procedures that we had learned about for the last month on the ground. We did this boot camp and we went out and we planned and executed, God, I think we did what, 4 sites in 5 days. And we actually put into practice all of these procedures that we learned. All right, so this was a very intensive boot camp, and the pilots will be talking about some of this in a moment. The focus, as I mentioned, was not just on commercial operations, it was applying these procedures for drone mapping and monitoring focused on disaster response, emergency preparedness, and public safety applications. Also, in this class, we covered a lot. All right, we covered so much in boot camp. This team got a little bit of everything. We learned about various drone software platforms that are needed to fly the drones, but also to process maps, as well as remote collaboration and teamwork and sharing across the country. We also learned and did a national inventory of all drone aircrafts or UAVs that are owned by the government of Anguilla, as well as the National Trust. And we focused on two main models that the government owns right now, the DJI Matrice 3E Enterprise with RTK mapping drone and the DJI Matrice 3 Enterprise thermal drone and that platform's applications. We learned about the pros and cons, what are the various uses of these drones, and why and when they should each be used. We also focused on flight surveys, automated surveys, the various types of mapping and monitoring surveys, but also free fly surveys. We learned the DJI Pilot 2 app, and we also focused on Flight Hub 2. We learned how to use ArcGIS Earth for mission planning, flight surveys, and data handling and information creation. We focused on understanding mapping accuracy and what it means to have a high accuracy drone, such as the Mavic 3E with RTK. We focused also on how drones can be used across the different disaster phases for disaster management. For each various step, how drones can be integrated and used to support disaster management in Anguilla. We also had an introduction to thermal drone applications and how drones with thermal sensors, how they can be used and what applications they can support within the country, whether it's for wildfires, hurricanes, hazmat, or conservation mapping and monitoring. In the boot camp, we went out and what I had the team do is scenario-based mission planning. We developed various flight plans based on the objectives of the various missions or flight requests that were submitted. And then we applied those operational procedures from the standard operational or from the operational manual to actually execute these missions. So it was really an applied skills learning approach. We did this at 4 sites with various applications across Anguilla. This is just showing you an example of all the various procedures and steps that are required in a mission. This is no little quick, you go out, you pop the drone up in the air, and you just collect some images, right? There is actual, for commercial operations, very strict and stringent guidelines on the policies, procedures that should be implemented. We did each one of these steps for all of the presentations you're going to see in a moment. We applied the safety procedures. We did assessments. We went out and did site assessments in the field. We did desk-based assessments. We learned how to undertake a feasibility and risk and safety assessment. We learned about threat and error management. So, on high risk missions or medium or even low risk missions, what you can do to reduce the risk for any problems happening. We applied safety procedures in terms of flight checklists and maintenance, as well as we learned about collecting mission data. We understood and we applied flight conduct and safety briefings and what safety features need to be implemented, as well as crew resource management, what the entire team should be doing when on site for commercial operations. Last but not least, we focused on data. What are the flight logs? What are the compliance procedures and maintenance requirements for commercial operations that are required for safety, as well as international policies and procedures? And last but not least, we focused on data handling and access and naming conventions, standardizing the way folders are set up, saved, and results are stored is essential to scale operations across the country and make things reusable so that all agencies, all teams are doing things in this standardized way so that we can reuse this information and trust the data. We've accomplished a lot in this training. You can see we have trained 6 agencies. Over 1,500 acres have been mapped in this training, more than 50 drone flights, 300 minutes of flying time, 14 sites in Anguilla have been mapped, and over 10,000 images captured. You've learned how to use Pilot 2, Flight Hub 2, and Drone Deploy, as well as ArcGIS Earth. You've gone out and independently planned and executed safely the missions, as well as learned how to process and manage the data and do analysis and present the data. So I would like to congratulate these team members on the hard work I've put you through. I know I'm not an easy teacher over the last 3 months, but you should be very proud. These were my final recommendations, but I will not read them aloud because Trevor nailed it in terms of the recommendations and next steps. So I basically second everything he needs. There will be a final training report where I go into quite a good deal of detail on these recommendations and next steps for the team. The number one is to get out and fly. All right, this team has shown me they are committed, they are well trained, and now the team really needs that time to practice and visibility to prove their impact across the agencies, across the government, so that the other agencies and the country at whole can understand the importance of drones and the way drones and this technology can save you time and money and also ensure that your operations are done in a safer way. The other thing is this support for cross sector and community partnerships and national scaling is something else I would highly recommend.